It is our privilege to have Shri Pramod Rao, former Executive Director, SEBI, to deliver a special address on the roadmap on tokenized assets at our conclave today. I would like to invite Sir on the dais.
It's a pleasure to be here once again at the Bombay Chambers event. I think somebody was telling me just off the thing that probably the debate around REITs, SM REITs, tokenization sort of got interspersed and interlinked at a Bombay Chambers event about 3 years or so ago. So I'm very grateful to continue to sort of contribute on this. To me, I think, I want to sort of break it out into maybe some portions which I heard earlier speakers, the panel deal with. And I'm, of course, personally very happy that many of them took a very conservative outlook. So I don't have to really take that outlook when I go forward. But it's important to acknowledge that there have been several things which indeed have happened in the regulated space. And any of the things which happen in the regulated space by design, by nature, sort of slow down things so that people come to terms with it. So in fact, when SEBI created the REIT and InvIT regulations, that was created almost 10 years back in 2013-14. And for the very first REIT to come about took about 5 years. The first InvIT took 4 years. So I think just the fact that people take time to come to terms, to understand and so on, and then take it forward, we should just acknowledge that it does take its own course. So similarly for fractional ownership platforms, which SEBI at least responded with creating SM REIT framework. There are already 5 registered, 1 which is launched, and that it happened within 1 year of that regulation coming. By contrast, when you think about REITs and InvITs, you probably will say that it actually is off to a very good start. So again, I'm just bringing home these points so that we reflect that regulations will have their own trajectory and therefore its own environment. What I want to actually do and how I thought about the topic about roadmap to tokenized assets was actually to draw out some few steps which I believe will be critical as we evolve, and it may therefore not be confined just to real estate, but really across asset classes. So to me, I think in the steps forward, the way I would begin with, and especially for real estate, but other assets as well. The number one item, and I think it got mentioned in the panel earlier as well, digitization. We need digitization of records. Especially when it comes to land, it has to have a digital flavor. Any other asset as well, we must be prepared that there will be a digital record keeping of that asset. And that when token changes hand, either the digitized record reflects, mirrors that, or vice versa. So to my mind, that is one of the critical aspects of how we evolve. Really both the ownership being reflected by holding of the tokens, or if we were to take Sandeep's contention that it's a right to ownership, not necessarily ownership. Even then, there needs to be some implication on that actual register of ownership. To me, I think therefore, I begin with saying that digitization is a must. Again, on land records, I think India has made a sterling start. It's digitized, and I think the digitization record is quite good to speak. Can it go more? Can it go deeper? Yes, it needs to. And I would say some of the states that were mentioned give us a good sort of feeling about it. The second, I would say, which is important, is standards and really interoperability of differing technologies. To me, with multiple entrepreneurs, enterprises that are focused on building technology, what can really happen is fragmentation of the market by deploying differing technologies that underpin the tokens. Even, I would say, if you think about the broader, there is Ethereum, Solana, and so on. And these are also competing with one another in terms of deployment and so on. Now, if I have to therefore think about what underpins those tokens, differential approaches will be leading to fragmentation is the way I would sort of say. Differential approaches may also happen really on legal interpretations, on laws and regulations being construed distinctly. And I recall hearing from different players in the tokenized economies, some who said, we follow everything to the T, including stamp duty on every time token is transferred, to somebody else saying that actually we don't do anything of that sort at all because it's 2 steps removed from the land records. Now, I'm saying this kind of variation is dangerous to developing a market, right? So what you need is really having a standard which sort of brings people together. So there needs to be common standards, interpretations, approaches which bring things in one way, and at some level common rails and certainly interoperability. And I'm very happy Shan showed Nandan talking about Finternet Labs. I'm associated with it as an advisor. And again, what it's trying to do is really build those guardrails, build a common rail, and one hopes that indeed different token providers start to use those same common rails to sort of build together. What does that offer as a future? It then offers scalability. It then offers a place where different token issuers, different people who've brought those to the market can actually trade, as much as an exchange becomes a place where different investment bankers have brought different companies which get listed and traded, right? Otherwise, like I said, you will have fragmented ecosystems, fragmented marketplaces, and what will that do? The liquidity will not be there. It will be an illusion of liquidity, as I heard a panelist say in the previous panel. So to me, that will be the second step, that is really standards and interoperability. The third, and I can't underemphasize or overemphasize this point, is segregation of roles. I've spoken about it earlier, but I'll again try and drive home the point that you cannot have different things being done by the same entity, which becomes the sponsor or the investment banker, which becomes the issuer of tokens, which sort of then has the trading platform for it, and so on. Because what I feel is it starts to it starts to challenge the investor trust and confidence. What they start to see is that there is conflict rife in all of these different roles. So segregation of role is critical to guard against potential conflicts, curbing potential frauds, temptations, or misadventures. And I would say, please look at FTX, the temptation of a trading arm of the same guy who's actually also running an exchange and had access to wallets and so on. Well, it was just going into that temptation. So to me, when you segregate roles, you're really creating a system of checks and balances. Akin to securities market, where each issuer is distinct, where there are different investment banks, different from the issuer, and so on. So I think that sort of leads to a far better system. I would equally sort of go on to say that if the underlyings are physical assets, let's say gold, let's say valuables, somebody said collectibles, then the custodian role of that asset should be segregated as well. It cannot lie with the same person who's organized all of this, because like I said, it's again rife with conflict. To me, amongst the things and the fears which indeed Sandeep also mentioned in the panel was about whether collective investment schemes could happen because of what token providers are creating. Well, if you can trace it to a specific individual slice of that asset and not necessarily the collective, maybe the collective investment scheme label can fall away. Neil vividly recalls one of the examples I had given of a parking lot and saying that maybe a token represents one parking spot in that parking lot, right? Whereas a REIT owning that parking lot would be really an undivided interest in the entire parking lot. Now, if you are able to segregate, then I would say that maybe you can avoid this entire thing of being even a collective investment scheme, because then you are able to say this is that particular property, particular asset, which I have exclusive rights to. I think number 4 on the steps would be adherence to law and legal regulations, to law regulatory requirements and so on. You would think that this is de minimis, this is what everybody should be doing. But I wanted to drive home the points with some things, and which I heard in the presentations earlier, but maybe will give you a perspective. For instance, if I had to think about what constitutes corporate bonds, there are about 3 different types of corporate bonds that SEBI permits, all in the listed space. One, which is a public offering. It can be for as less as 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees, if you will, face value, and so on. There's another which can be 10,000 rupees, and that requires a private placement but with a merchant banker, and they can be then 1 lakh rupee face value, which doesn't require a merchant banker. Now, if you said, I have a token which can actually give you 1 rupee exposure to this, and the regulatory design was to have these limits at 1,000, 10,000, and 1 lakh, you are defeating regulatory intent, right? Similarly, if I had to talk about private assets, somebody mentioned private equity, VC. If they are by design meant to be private and you say this token can make it available to a wider audience, it's not private anymore, it's public. So at some level, I think you need to look at what is the regulatory context in which those limits were laid down, right? And if they were laid down for a good reason. I would tell you, please go and challenge those limits, not saying that tokens need a different approach. Because if you're going to defeat that regulatory intent, you will have the regulator coming and sort of having a concern. I'm also very happy the previous panel touched upon the virtual digital asset definition and how it's all encompassing. I would agree. I think we need to definitely de-hyphenate crypto assets from tokenized assets from whatever else. And I think it will be both the tax statutes, but also the outlook of what we end up doing. For me, for instance, moving from simple to complex is really, I think, the journey which we need to think about for tokenized assets. For me, for instance, one would be an asset which indeed has something backing it. And therefore, it could be gold, it could be valuables, it could be something else. And like I said, as long as you have segregated and pointed to it, that's a tokenized asset. You could have utility tokens, which means it entitles you to a right to something, maybe a right to a parking spot because that's how it's been sold, as opposed to ownership. So that can be another form of tokens which could be used. Next in sequence could be stable coins, and really those are nothing but, again, I would argue that they are tokens but backed by money market mutual funds or government securities. And indeed, in the US or West, it's become medium to then enter into virtual digital assets for sure. And finally, if we really need those, which is the crypto assets having no underlying intangible by itself, and imaginary values, so as to speak, at least in my view. I'm a skeptic, as you can imagine. But if indeed there are people who attach value to it, maybe that should be a last sort of thing as we evolve these items. Regulatory architecture, clearly I've heard people say, SEBI, there will be those who will say, no, if it is about payments, then RBI is the last word, and there's nothing to disagree on those items. But over a period of time, as I've tried to understand this and come to sort of terms, I think the way I would end up saying is, maybe we need a completely different approach to this. We need maybe a combined regulator. And we have such an example in form of IFSCA. It combines all different regulators and their powers into regulating the IFSC jurisdiction. Maybe we need such a regulator for tokens. Because again, technology being what it is, I don't know if we say this is a token which is meant to be, let's say representative of gold, but tomorrow I decide it's a medium of exchange, that you will attach value to receiving a gold token as much as you do to maybe CBDC or rupee. In which case, if it was a securities regulator looking at this particular token, he would suddenly feel out of depth. He would say, no, this is not what I regulate. This is what Reserve Bank regulates. And so on. So to my mind, if it can change character depending on how the investors treat it, how the issuers treat it, maybe, like I said, a combined regulator with representatives of each of these financial regulators might be a better way to think about regulating tokens. Till such a regulatory architecture is put in place, my counsel to the industry really would be, please organize yourselves into a trade body, please organize yourself into an industry association, which at least puts together these common frameworks. At least things which, when finally a regulator has to come in and legislate, you're not caught by shock or surprise, and your model happens to be very different from what is finally legislated. So that would be what I would say. The last but one point would be really around investor protection frameworks. Clearly, regulators step in and governments also create regulatory environments when they see market failure, when they see investors losing money and so on. To me, I agree with the thought that maybe we begin with sophisticated investors, accredited investors to begin with to participate in such assets, and slowly then keep increasing it, having, of course, like I said, adherence to the guardrails I mentioned earlier. But equally, I would say that we need to have a trade body which looks at code of conduct, which looks at maybe investor grievance resolution. SEBI has given us a great example in terms of dispute resolution with Smart ODR. If that's digital and you expect token holders to be around the world, not just India, you probably need a modicum of dispute resolution which can equally be cross-border in nature. Finally, I will end with a cautionary note, even though, like I said, I heard all of the conservative views earlier. And that is that shiny new things or shiny new objects should not make us lose our perspective. Each time we see and encounter a new technology, we think this is going to solve the entire problem of whatever else has been in the past. I don't think it works like that. I think we end up having to think about what is it that we should do right, what is it that is right for the market, for investors, and so on. It's with that I'll bring a close to this remarks. So thank you again, Bombay Chambers. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful address. I now request Sandeep Khosla, Director General, Bombay Chamber, to please present memento to Shri Pramod Rao as a token of appreciation. A round of applause. Thank you so much.